Okay, next, poultry, stuffed meat, and stuffing containing meat. All poultry, stuffed meat, and stuffing containing meat must be cooked to an internal temperature of 165 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. A good practice when dealing with stuffed poultry is to cook the stuffing separately from the poultry. Stuffing acts as insulation and can prevent heat from reaching the inside of the bird. So you cook the stuffing separate from the bird so that the bird can get hot all the way. Because the stuffing will stop the heat from coming in. Pork and foods containing pork. Pork and any food containing pork must be cooked to an internal temperature of 150 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. Okay? Next, shell eggs and foods containing shell eggs. Shell eggs and foods containing shell eggs must be cooked to at least 145 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. An exception may be made for an individual customer who requests the preparation of a shell egg in a style that is prepared at a temperature lower than 145 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, so if a customer asks, you can prepare it at below 145, but I'm pretty sure you got to write a warning on the menu. Commercially pasteurized eggs must be used for foods made with eggs that are served without cooking or are lightly cooked, such as Caesar salad dressing, eggnog, hollandaise, or other similar sauces. All right, let's go to the next section. It says ground meat and food containing ground meat. Ground meat and food containing ground meat are required to be cooked to 158 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds unless otherwise requested by the customer. Meat and fish. Meat, fish, and other potentially hazardous foods not listed above are required to be cooked to 140 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. Rare roast beef. Rare roast beef and or rare beef steaks are to be cooked to the following minimum temperatures and times, unless otherwise requested by the customer, okay? So your temperature 130 is 120 minutes. The higher your temperature, the less time you got to cook it, okay? And it goes all the way down, the scale goes all the way down to 145 degrees Fahrenheit. You got to cook it for 3 minutes, all right? And that's the scale for the rare roast beef and rare beef steaks, okay? Next. Cooking in a microwave oven. Microwave cooking allows for a faster cooking process. However, the cooking is uneven. I repeat, microwave cooking is uneven and can lead to cold spots where bacteria can easily multiply to a dangerous level. It is important to follow the guidelines below to ensure proper cooking. Okay, here they are. Arrange food items evenly and cover the dish with a lid or plastic wrap. The moist heat will help destroy harmful bacteria and ensure uniform cooking. Okay, next. When cooking large cuts of meats, adjust the settings to medium power and cook for longer periods of time to ensure proper cooking. Okay, next. Stir or rotate food halfway through the process to eliminate cold spots. Gotta look out for them cold spots where harmful bacteria can survive, and for more even cooking. Them uneven cooking causes cold spots now. Next. Foods may be partially cooked in the microwave oven and then transferred to a conventional oven for completion. However, this transfer must be done immediately. All right. So when you cook it from microwave to oven, you got to do it fast. Next, let food stand for at least 2 minutes after microwaving to allow even distribution of heat throughout the product. All right. Remember, microwave causes uneven cooking, which creates cold spots. All right. And last but not least, use a food thermometer to verify that the proper temperature is reached. Okay. Due to uneven cooking process in the microwave ovens, add 25 degrees Fahrenheit to the final cooking temperature to ensure thorough cooking. All right. Let's go to the next section here. Hot holding. Okay. Cooked foods that are held for service must be held at 140 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. During this period, care must be taken to ensure that the temperature remains at that level and that the food is protected. Some important precautions. Let's see. Ensure that the hot holding unit works efficiently and is large enough to accommodate all the food items to be held without double stacking them. The water temperature must be above, and I repeat, above 140 degrees Fahrenheit to maintain foods at that temperature. The hot holding unit must also be preheated so that hot food are placed on a hot unit. All right. Next, cover food. Food that is covered retains heat better than uncovered food does. Next, use a thermometer to ensure that food is at the proper temperature. Next, practice product rotation. Return food items that are losing heat to the stove or oven and replace them with hot foods kept in reserve. Next, do not double stack or overfill containers. Food in top container will not receive adequate heat. The same will happen to food in the top of overfilled containers. All right. Next, do not use the hot holding unit to reheat refrigerated foods. This equipment is not designed for reheating. It is designed to keep hot foods hot. Okay, but the hot food's hot. It retains temperature, but don't use it to heat it up. It keeps the temperature already high. Can't cook with it. Okay. Next, cooling. Cooked potentially hazardous food items that are held for later service must be cooled rapidly and stored in a refrigerator until ready for use. When foods are allowed to cool over a long period of time, bacteria grow to sufficient numbers that may cause foodborne illnesses. The NYC Health Code requires that all potentially hazardous foods prepared for later service be cooled down, and I repeat, cooled down rapidly. This means that within the first 2 hours of cooling, the foods must be cooled from 140 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and then go from 70 degrees Fahrenheit to 41 degrees Fahrenheit within an additional 4 hours or less. This rapid cooling requirement limits the length of time that potentially hazardous foods spends in the temperature danger zone, TDZ, thus limiting the opportunity for growth of harmful bacteria. Food in large, deep containers and large, thick pieces of meat are difficult to cool down quickly. Great care must be taken during the cooling of soups, sauces, gravy, stews, rice, chili, whole turkey, turkey breast, and whole roast beef. The temperature of cooling foods must be monitored and documented with a food product thermometer. Okay? Take the temperature of the cooling food each hour. Okay, and I repeat, each hour. Take that cooling food temperature to ensure that it is cooling within the required time. Start these measurements at 140 degrees Fahrenheit. All right. Potentially hazardous foods that have been allowed to cool over an extended period of time, more than 2 hours when cooling from 140 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and more than 4 hours when cooling from 70 degrees Fahrenheit to 41 degrees Fahrenheit or below, are considered contaminated and must be discarded. So you got to throw your food out now. It's been cooled too long. Okay. It is a fact that smaller portions of food cool down faster than larger portions. Hence, to encourage faster cooling, roast and other large cuts of meat should be cut into portions no larger than 6 pounds. Thick foods like chili and refried beans should be poured out into shallow pans 4 inches, I repeat, 4 inches deep. In both these cases, there is more surface area, thus heat escapes faster. Cooling must take place in the refrigerator or in an ice bath. Never cool foods down by simply leaving them out at room temperature. Foods do not cool at a constant rate. Hot food tends to cool relatively quickly while still very hot. The rate of cooling then slows greatly as the food temperature gets closer to the temperature of the refrigerator. The cooling tracking sheet is a good guide to show if foods are cooling properly. All right, so make a tracker sheet and that way you post the temperature that it is at each time. The food temperature must drop from 140 degrees Fahrenheit to 90 degrees Fahrenheit or lower by the end of the first hour. If this doesn't happen, it clearly means that the rate of cooling is too slow and foods will never reach 70 degrees Fahrenheit within 2 hours. Many food workers underestimate the amount of time it takes for foods to cool down. Under typical restaurant kitchen refrigeration, a 1-gallon container of cooked ground meat may take up to 15 hours to cool down. For this reason, it is essential to monitor food temperatures during the cooling process. All right. Monitor and remember, take your temperature of the food every so much time. The charts below, it says it would take 6 days to cool the beef stewed in this large pot to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. All right. Takes a long time to remove heat from thick food in deep, wide pots. All right. Here goes the chart.